Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video, or rather I should say my second attempt at this video. So I'm going to be talking about She-Hulk and the cover that Jen Bartel did for the Women's History Month. She drew several of them. Given that She-Hulk is my favorite character, I thought I would go over the She-Hulk image in particular, just my overall thoughts on how She-Hulk is depicted both in this particular image by Jen. And I want to be clear, I think Jen's artwork is very good. I sent her a message on Twitter, thanking her for the artwork. So I think as images, they're fine. I just have an issue with the She-Hulk one as it relates to She-Hulk as a character. If you're familiar with my older videos on my old channel, you'll know that I have not been happy with the way that She-Hulk has been depicted over the past several years, visually or in storylines. So, if you're not familiar, this is what She-Hulk tends to look like these days in the comics. In this particular image, apparently she's infused with the Phoenix Force. Now, last time that I checked, the Phoenix Force makes you look like this, right? This is its most famous, I guess, host, I guess you could call it, Jean Grey, right? So last I checked, it makes you look more like this, especially if you're a woman and the Phoenix has decided to use you as a vessel. And not like this, but I digress, right? So these are some of the covers. These are the next few images are going to be my favorites of the ones that Jen did for the Jen Bartel, I should say, did for the Women's History Month covers. Now, I want to be clear, this is just the cover art. I have no idea what the stories are going to be or who's writing them. Given Marvel's standard for stories over the past couple of years, I don't have a lot of hope. But this isn't about writing, this is about art. So, let me just go over this from the article from Bounding into Comics, which will give what's what I'm looking for, which will give some insight into uh, Jen Bartel's thought process when drawing these images. So it says here from the Bounding in the Comics article, Bartel went on to reveal that she first pitched the covers to include fashion styles. I want to emphasize this. Fashion styles from the year the characters debuted, right? Bartel explained, when I first pitched the idea of incorporating fashion styles from the year of each character's debut, editor Emily Newcomen fully supported me, and her enthusiasm helped fuel the direction they all went in. I, of course, love drawing superheroes, but it feels extra special to be able to depict them in civilian clothes, especially knowing that the styles I chose directly tie into to the history of each character, Bartel added, right? So there's the little bit of context for each image, right? So each image, according to Jen, is supposed to be in the style of when the characters debuted, and each look, each design is supposed to be reflecting of their history. For example, this is Hellcat. This is Patsy Walker. She debuted in the mid 40s. I think it's 1944. I know it's hard to see here because of the image, but I believe it's 1944. Let me check the article proper. Let's see here. Yes, according to the article here, Patsy Walker debuted in 1944, right? And so the image here, does have this 40s, 50s, glamour to it, which I think is fine. I think it's a beautiful image, right? So we have that. And then, of course, we have Emma Frost, who debuted in 1980. She was a, a she's been for a very long time a major fixture and main character in the X-Men books. Of course, obviously you see it's very glamorous, yet a bit sexy, a bit risque, which has always been Emma Frost's character. She has a very like late 80s, early 90s Madonna type appearance and attitude to her, which in my opinion I think totally fits the character. So this image is very good. I like this image. Go. Ah, and here's what's probably my favorite image out of all of them, despite She-Hulk being my favorite character personally. My favorite image of the ones presented in the Bounding into Comics article is this one of Jessica Drew, right? So Jessica Drew debuted in 1977. So this is drawing from 70s styles. And I think this is just awesome. The red, the hair, the clothing, I think it looks great, right? And then we get to the She-Hulk one. Now I want to be clear. I want to be clear, right? I think as an image, as a picture, this is beautiful. I want to be clear, right? My gripes are about the suit and the body, and I'll get into that. But I want to be clear, as an image, I think this is absolutely beautiful. This is probably the most beautiful Jen has looked in several years, given, as I showed earlier, the, I guess you call it She-Bulk, that they have turned her into both visually and as a character over the past several years. So the face is beautiful, the hair, it's great. My issue is with this suit. I'm about to go on a probably 30-minute tirade over a suit. Just warning you now. Now, here's the thing. Again, as an image, as a picture, it's fine, but this is not how She-Hulk would dress. Right? And how do I know? How do I know this? Well, let's look back to how she dressed in the comics in 1980s. Right? We have this image here, which I think is from the John Byrne run, so this would have been more late 80s, right? As you can see here, she's in a skirt. You have the jacket over her shoulder, right? You have the shirts kind of large. Okay, fine, whatever. Right, but still a woman's business suit, right? A woman's dress suit. You have another image here, which again hails from the John Byrne era of comics, so the late 80s, right? And as we see here again, skirt suit, right? And the jacket, as we can see here, right, is the most visually similar to the vest in this image, right? But even here, as you can see, right, even though she's most likely wearing this like dress and she's using the jacket to, you know, to just wear over it, right? You still see that it's very feminine, right? It's very feminine, and yet we have this kind of androgynous suit on a character like She-Hulk, who's always been one of the most feminine characters in Marvel's comics, especially from the era she came out of, being that she originally debuted in 1980. She was written by Stan Lee. She was the last character, if I remember correctly, Stan had a hand in making at that time, right? And then, of course, John Byrne took over when she was in the Fantastic Four in the mid '80s, and then there was the what was it? There was the graphic novel. Marvel used to do these very long graphic novels back in the mid '80s, and her character started getting traction. And then there was the John Byrne run, and just her comic run in general that really took off in like the late '80s into about the early to mid 1990s, right? So there's that. Right, so obviously we see that in the past she was given, when they put her in business suits, right? She's obviously given a much more feminine look than we see here, right? This is clearly more androgynous, and plus, and I want to emphasize this: She-Hulk. She-Hulk is Marvel's definitive premier bodybuilder character, female bodybuilder character. This is important, and I'm going to explain why. Because bodybuilders are not shy about their bodies, okay? Follow me on this. You see, Rachel McClish, right, was the first ever Miss Olympia, right? She won the Olympia in 1980, 1982. She competed for about 1980 to 1984, if I remember correctly. And she won two of them. The original one, the first one in 1980, and then she won again in 1982, right? So quite obviously, if you look like this, right, you are not shy about your body. You work hard on your body, right? And again, we see here that with She-Hulk back in the day, this image might be from the 1990s, right? But still, the general aesthetic, right, of the 80s. And remember, Jen said in that article, right? I'll read it again. Jen Bartel said, let me scroll up. Come on. Right? She says that it feels extra special to be able to depict them in civilian clothes, especially knowing that the styles I chose directly tie into the history of each character. Remember that. right? And the part where she says earlier, right, that when she pitched her idea, right, it was incorporating fashion styles from the year of each character's debut, right? So we are talking about 80s bodybuilding. That's always been an aesthetic, a visual aesthetic of She-Hulk's. 80s bodybuilding. This is what the premier female bodybuilder in the 1980s looked like. This is the actual human being, Rachel McClish. This is what the comic representation, I would say, not necessarily of McClish herself, but of that glamazon, female bodybuilder aesthetic that was popular in the 1980s, right? So again, if this is the human and this is the comic that sort of draws from the standard that McClish set, right? That general 80s female bodybuilder aesthetic, then why oh why? Again, bodybuilder, right? I forgot this image was here. I'm not gonna lie, right? So again, Jen is again a bodybuilder, as you can see here. And she's working out here in the, I think it's the Fantastic Four gym in this particular image, right? But again, you see, she's obviously not shy about her body. So why oh why is she dressed like this? Why is she hiding her body in this image? It literally makes no sense to me, given the aesthetic that's and the history of the character and the aesthetic, which is 80s bodybuilder, which according to what Jen said, I would imagine what Jen Bartel said, I would imagine that would be the influence for the character, right? If she is indeed drawing from the character's history and from the fashions that were popular at that time. Another thing is that I doubt that an actual bodybuilder who could draw, right, would draw of a woman or themselves looking like this in this type of outfit that would hide everything that they've worked so hard for. They may be wondering, well, Gene, how do you know that? Well, okay, I've totally lost my place in my own video. But anyway, okay, let's rewind. Because I totally lost my own place in my own video because of course I did. Right, so putting clothes on She-Hulk like this is like putting clothes on Shiva. Right, this is Shiva from Mortal Kombat 11. Right? This is what she used to look like. This was her debut appearance in 1995 in Mortal Kombat 3. And as you can see again, right, she's a bodybuilder, shows off her body, right, big, strong, scary looking. It's a visual. It's a very striking visual, and it's a visual that many bodybuilders pursue to look big and strong and show it off. And then what does NetherRealm Studios do? They put her in armor. You don't put a Shokan in armor. It just goes against everything they represent as a character. Yes, I'm still pissed off about this. Moving on. This is what happens when you spend literally all day editing the images and then you forget what order they're in. But anyway, classic Shiva. I am losing my place and I'm losing my mind. I hope I'm not losing the point though. Anyway, classic Shiva is best Shiva. Really, moving on now, right? As I was saying, a bodybuilder does not hide their body like this, even in the artistic realm. Thank God, I'm in the right place now. You see this lady here, this nice lady here? This is Julie Bell, right? Julie Bell, per Wikipedia, is an American fine artist, illustrator, and photographer. She is a fantasy artist and a wildlife painter. She is one of the main representatives of the heroic fantasy and fantastic realism genres. You know what else she used to do back in the day? She was a bodybuilder. How do you know? What do you know? And here's what Wikipedia says about her history in bodybuilding. It says here, in her youth, she was fond of bodybuilding. She took part in various competitions and received national recognition, which later influenced her to portray beautiful and muscular women. She applied the same discipline and intensity to her art career. Her knowledge of anatomy has allowed her to imbue her figures of humans and animals with grace and strength. At the heart of her work is a deep curiosity, honor, and respect for the world of emotions. So as we see here, her experiences in bodybuilding influenced her to portray beautiful, muscular women. Let's take a look at some of her art. This is from the Marvel Gallery about her. She used to do comic art back in the day in the 1990s. Right, so this is Jean Grey with the Phoenix Force, right? So while certainly thicker than the earlier image I showed, right, still obviously quite feminine, if very muscular, right? So we have this. We have Storm. I think this is a great image, by the way. Just personally, I think it's awesome. We have Lilandra here, right? So as we see, right, her experiences as a bodybuilder, right, influenced her visuals, the way she drew these powerful female characters, right? And she's obviously not shy about showing off their bodies in the artistic form, right? And also, fun fact that I totally threw in here because I like it. Miss Julie Bell also did the cover art for the video game Eternal Champions, which is one of my favorite games from my childhood. Though I do find it interesting that the rating here says MA13. I played that game. I played that game when I was well under the age of 13. That is peak MA17. The things they allowed us to get away with in the 1990s. But moving on, right? So as we see here, a artist, right? Again, according to Wikipedia, right? Julie Bell is a fine artist, illustrator, and photographer. She's a fantasy artist and wildlife painter, right? So an artist, obviously did comic art back in the day and video game art and all different types of art, who also quite literally was a bodybuilder, creates characters like this. This is an awesome image of Mystique, I must say. And apparently from the image here, Julie drew this back in 1990. Probably did the colors too. Made this, painted this back in 1995, right? So we have a literal bodybuilder who's also an artist. And she made her characters in this way, right? So why does She-Hulk look like this? Why are we not seeing She-Hulk's body? Why are we hiding Jennifer's body? Now I want to be clear. I'm not trying to say that Jen Bartel needs to change her art style or that she needs to copy Julie Bell. That's not what I'm saying here. I want to be clear about that. I think Jen Bartel's art style is just fine as it is. It is distinctly her own. And again, the face is beautiful. Got no problem with it. All I'm asking is, when you look at the history of the character, and then you look at an actual female artist who has also been a bodybuilder, in the way, again, bodybuilders literally look at the human form, both whether it's in images such as this or their own literal bodies, as a work of art. So if we're holding true to the character and we're holding true to the aesthetic of the day, why aren't we seeing Jen in something that is much more flattering to the female form? Again, why are we hiding her body? And I want to be clear, I don't think Jen made this call when it came to depicting She-Hulk, right, in this particular outfit. I could be wrong. I cannot read Jen Bartel's mind, but I don't think this was her call. Because if you look at the images that I showed earlier, and even if you look at the Bounding into Comics article itself, you'll see that the other figures that she drew, there's Black Cat, there's, again, all the other images that I showed. There's Silk, there's some new Native American character, I don't know who the heck she is, right? But they're all drawn, right, in a way that is not hiding their feminine form, especially a character like, say, Black Cat, who's always been very open about the fact that she's very sensual and sexy and all that, because she's basically Catwoman from Marvel, right? So again, She-Hulk has very much been in that type of vein for a very long time, especially going back to her '80s run. Right? She was very sassy and fun and sexy. So again, why is this image not completely reflecting that? Again, the head is awesome. The body is what I take issue with. And I don't think this was entirely Jen Bartel's call. Just my opinion, right? Now, to be clear, right, we've been getting this in the comics for a very long time, and this absolutely pisses me off because this is not She-Hulk either, right? She-Hulk isn't. This is just, in my opinion, completely grotesque, not just in appearance but also in personality. Because I have read the recent She-Hulk runs. I read Jason Aaron's Avengers 20 a year or two ago. This is not She-Hulk, not just visually, but as a character. This is a complete betrayal of everything that she represented. She's meant to be the ideal feminine, right? She's meant to look like this and have a personality, again, that is the ideal woman, right? Outgoing, sassy, fun, right? And we're not getting that anymore. We haven't gotten that for a very long time. And as a fan of the character, that ticks me off. I'm not gonna lie about it. It pisses me off a lot. What I want to see is a return to this. And what we get currently is this. Now I have to be clear. If I have to choose between this and this, I'll choose this. This is just aesthetically more pleasing, despite my gripes about the suit. But what I really want is this. Can we please make a return to this? That's all I'm asking. I'd like to read She-Hulk again, but I want her to return to the character she was: beautiful, strong, smart, feminine. Right? Don't stop hiding her, Marvel, is basically what I'm trying to say. Stop hiding her. There is nothing wrong with a female bodybuilder, of all people, having a strong feminine appearance. Of all the people to hide visually, She-Hulk is not it. She's 6 foot what, 8? I think it is 6'8" and green. She's absolutely the last person that you hide in any sense of the term. She literally can't hide. That's the fun part of the character. But anyway, my slip ups in the middle of my own video aside, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that, again, my point was made. I'm not the most eloquent of people, but I hope that I made my point. And again, I don't want this video to be seen as any sort of attack on Jen Bartel and her art, because it's not. I think she did a great job on these. I continue to be just very frustrated with the way, regardless of who the artist is, how Marvel, again, not the individual artists, because they no doubt get their marching orders, get their ideas, right, or what they're told to do or not do from Marvel. So I'm putting this on Marvel. I am tired of Marvel hiding the beautiful, feminine, strong, sexy She-Hulk away, and either, putting her in bulky clothes that hide everything feminine about her, or, as we see in the comics modern day, um, again, making her bulky and again, no femininity to her form, right? No femininity, no personality to her as a character. She's just literally become the very thing everybody was trying to avoid at one point, which was just Hulk as a woman, right? And I don't want Hulk as a woman. I want Jennifer Walters as the She-Hulk. I don't want to read about, nor do I want to look at, Hulk with a ponytail, right? Okay? That's basically it. So I hope I have made the point, and hope you all are doing well. Many more videos will be coming up, especially since we have a more or less 4-day break, given that today is what? Today is the 12th. Today is Lincoln's birthday. Monday is President's Day. And at least here in America, most of us don't have to work on those 2 days. So wherever you are, I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe. And I will see you all next one. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.